Hello, welcome back to the HSYS podcast. I'm your host, Jalyssa, and today we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to be stuck. Last week, I shared where I've been the last 6 months and opened up about the way that the Lord has just been refining me, and the hard and the good and the beautiful and the messy and all those different parts. So many women feel seen in that conversation, and that is really encouraging. And this conversation today about being stuck has to be one of the most common conversations that I have. We feel so stuck. It sounds so simple to people when you say, I just feel stuck. And they're like, okay, move forward, move on. There's so many people in my life that see me and know me and love me deeply. And they're like, Jalyssa, you really struggle with follow through, or you have so many big ideas. If I had all the talents and the ideas that you had, I would be a millionaire. Like, people ask me about me not, writing or speaking at conferences or all these things. And I'm trying to explain to them, like, I do see that for me, but I don't know. I feel stuck. I'm sure that the people in your life get tired of hearing about how stuck you are. Like, the people in my life were tired of hearing about how stuck I am. But listen, sis, I'm not tired of it. I'm not tired of hearing about how stuck you are. I want us to get unstuck together. I feel like we often have a hard time finding language for the things that we're experiencing. And for me, sometimes I need visual representation. And so my sons, they watch a lot of things on my YouTube, like Brave Wilderness, a lot of like documentaries on nature and creatures and insects and all that. A lot of the ads that I have on my YouTube are for documentaries, nature things, etc., etc. I was sitting at my computer working, and I had a podcast or something on YouTube, and one of the little ads came on, and it was a man jumping on quicksand. And I was so intrigued. So I went on a rabbit trail research, like very, very obsessed with understanding quicksand. I don't know why, but sometimes visuals, they just like ignite something in me. So when I think about quicksand, I think about the movies, right? Like when you're engulfed and you begin to like sink and you get devoured by it, and then you're just like gonna die under the quicksand. But I did so much research, and I discovered that people don't usually die from suffocating in quicksand. When you first step onto it, it doesn't like pull you under. Like in the movies, often it looks like someone's getting pulled under by like a force, but you slowly begin to sink. The crazy thing is that people don't usually sink all the way under like in the movies. They sink to about waist deep and then they get stuck. What's interesting is that it is the panic response that we have to quicksand that enables the quicksand to get softer, which enables our sink to be a little bit more intense. And then people come to this dead stop. Most people don't know how to get out of quicksand. So when I was doing this research, it said that most people don't die from being engulfed in quicksand. That like doesn't really happen. When people do die, which seems to be pretty rare, from quicksand, is because they're either alone and they have nobody to help them get out, is they are stuck for so long that the weather conditions, whether it be extremely hot or extremely cold, kill them, or they're devoured as prey by predators. That is exactly what being stuck in a season of life feels like. It's so interesting that just like quicksand, the ground is perceived to be stable. And then we step into that, and us stepping into an unstable ground, we began to sink under. What was so interesting to me about that is, in my personal life and story, in those seasons of life where I feel very stuck, is often when I am treading some grounds that maybe were not necessarily too safe or that smart to walk on. This last season of life, what that has looked like is I have a lot of ambitions, and I have a lot of desires, and I'm a very multi-passionate person. And there was a time where I was like, I don't know that I want to pray about everything. Sometimes I just want to do things. And then I would just do them, and it would seemingly be great, just like the perceived solid ground that quicksand is. And then I would step into it. Sometimes that was fashion. Sometimes that was roles and titles. Sometimes that was creative endeavors. whatever it may be, I would step onto it and begin to slowly sink in it. It would begin to consume me. And so that continued to happen in my life. I was totally unaware that though I thought I was stepping on some sort of solid ground, I was actually stepping onto quicksand and like slowly sinking to the position where I was stuck with no idea how to get out of it. As I talk to different women, I see that sometimes it's not necessarily bad decisions that we make that lead us to being stuck. Whatever it may be, let me share with you how you literally get out of quicksand and how I believe the Lord showed me how that can apply to our own stuckness. And I'm going to read it to you guys. Some of the things that I found about getting out of quicksand are: to get out of quicksand, you have to be calm, you have to be smart, you have to act mindfully, you have to act slowly, you have to act intentionally. These are different words that I've pulled from different resources as I was reading about it. So one of the things that it says to do first: rid yourself of heavy items that will force you to go down faster and deeper. I thought that was really interesting. In the video, it shows a person taking off their backpack, taking off their coat, taking off their headlight, like whatever it was that could be excess weight for them. I was praying about that, and what does that look like for, maybe the way that I feel stuck or the way that you feel stuck. Some of that could be mental, some of that could be physical, some of that can be emotional or spiritual. So getting unstuck, the first thing that we need to do is relieve ourselves of things that weigh us down. For me, that has looked a lot like talking to someone, whether it be a counselor, a mentor, a friend, and kind of getting some of that mental heaviness off of me. And a lot of that has looked like physical, moving my body more, eating more nutritious things that make me feel better. So there is this physical and mental component to me personally. Another one was obviously spiritually. In that season of me feeling stuck, I noticed that going to the Lord started to feel burdensome, kind of heavy. And I realized it was because I wasn't necessarily going to the Lord for intimacy. I was going to the Lord for productivity. So what could that be for you, sis? Like, maybe write it down. Think, what is something that is physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually making me sink lower, something heavy that I need to get off of me? So this is the next thing to do, is to lean back slowly to allow your weight to distribute. This works by creating space that allows water to fill in those gaps, and it makes the area softer, which means you can slowly begin to lift out of the quicksand. Whoa, that one for me was really intense because, and I was in Exodus, and there's a portion of scripture where Jethro, his father-in-law, comes and he's like, yeah, Moses, I see what you're doing here. It's dope, but this is kind of silly, the way that you're managing these things. Like, you need to delegate, you need to distribute the weight and allow people to fill in the gaps. That is a paraphrase. Look it up. It's in Exodus. I'll put it in the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube, I'll put it on the screen. So in my life personally, that looked a lot like leaning on community and delegating. And so ask yourself, what does it look like for me? What is the support that I can lean back on so that I can create space to be filled? So the last thing that it said is, once you have rid yourself of that excess weight, you begin to slowly lean back, allow the water to fill that space. Now it should be soft enough for you to slowly start to pull your ligaments out of the quicksand. It says to do it extremely slow. It says that the faster that a person is trying to get themselves out of the quicksand, the more pressure and dense weight will be on their bodies, and the damage done to their body will be a lot more extreme. So you have to be very mindful of getting out of that stuckness slowly and intentionally and with patience, so you don't have long-term nerve damage. We don't realize that it is in the panic, and it is in the excess weight, and it is in the lack of intention that we sink deeper, we get more stuck, and then we literally become prey that could be devoured by a predator. Now, y'all, I know as believers, we know that the predator is always lurking, okay? So as I've been slowly letting, my community surround me, leaning back on his word, being mindful and intentional, and seeing how the Lord decides to fill those gaps to allow me to get unstuck. And it's been really exciting because I feel like the Lord begins to reveal to us new things about ourselves and lets us have a lot more depth and perspective and a lot more clarity. And those are some of the things that I have experienced in climbing out of that quicksand and getting unstuck. And I feel like I'm in a place now where I just feel free and I don't feel heavy. When I experience something that feels edifying or freeing or encouraging, I want to share that with my sisters. Like, I want to see other women walk in that freedom and experience that peace that surpasses all understanding and climb to the top of that mountain. And I will say that one thing about being stuck, imagine being stuck in quicksand and you have nothing but time and you're just kind of looking around, and you get a lot more perspective and you get a lot more clarity and you get a lot more zeal about what you're going to do when you're unstuck, when you're out of this place and when you're out of that pit. And I feel like that is what I'm walking in now. I think about like David and what maybe that stuck season might have felt like for him, literally for his life, fleeing Saul and having been anointed king at such a young age, and then having to endure lots of high highs and low lows until he finally got on the throne. And I think about the Psalms that he wrote when he was in that journey of maybe what felt like stuck for him, because he's literally hiding, trying to not be killed by a man that he loved and served, and the way that the Lord refined him and then propelled him as an even more whole version of himself and an even stronger version of himself, so that he could be a good king to Israel. And I think about Elijah, and if it felt like he was stuck in quicksand when Jezebel was after him, and when he was only doing what the Lord had called him to do, and now somebody was seeking to devour him, and he'd rather die. He'd rather no longer, he just don't want to do this no more. But the Lord was so gracious and merciful to provide his need in the way that he kept going, and he completed the work that the Lord had put him on earth to do. Or I think about Joseph as a young boy with a dream, who was sold into slavery and then lied on and put in prison, and who was just stuck in slavery and then in prison for all of these years. And the way that we see him get to the vision, we see the vision fulfilled, and Joseph was this more refined, wise, strong version of himself. And I feel like that is what the Lord is doing in us when we are in these seasons where we feel stuck. Perhaps stuck doesn't mean stop. Stuck doesn't mean the end. Stuck doesn't mean paralyzed. Maybe stuck means that God is wanting to take you deep so that you can get out with intention and with wisdom and with community and with clear perspective, so that he can send you where he wants to send you. Just like he sent David to the throne, or sent Joseph to his position in Egypt, sent Elijah up into heaven after he had done what the Lord had called him to do. When we feel stuck and when we feel like we are sinking, may we allow that to be a season where we are going deeper into our need for the Lord and our reliance on Jesus and not on self, and use the tools that he has given us, so that when we get out of that season of stuckness, we are ready to be sent. So some things that I know I have felt, and you may be feeling if you are in a stuck season, I often would have asked myself, like, am I just not like a go-getter? Am I just not a person that is very productive? Am I just not somebody who can accomplish a goal? Really, what I didn't realize is that I was looking inward and not up. Eyes up always. So if you're feeling stuck and you're asking yourself, am I lazy, or am I not productive, or feeling like I'm not where I'm supposed to be, not looking so inward, but looking up. God, what is it that you are wanting to teach me in this season? How is it that I can be relying more on you in this season? God, what is it that you are wanting to show me? You know, one thing that we see about Joseph, when we see him as a slave, he was top tier. He was top flight security of the world. He was doing what he was supposed to be doing. He was showing up and showing out. He was looking to honor and please God, even in that stuck season. When he was in prison, he was using the gifts that God had given him, even if it was for the benefit of others and not himself. His eyes were up. We see David, that when he was in the cave, he was producing psalms. When he was on the run and he had the opportunity to kill Saul, he did not. he still wanted to honor God. His eyes were up, his eyes were not inward. And so how can we in our stuck season keep our eyes up and not inward, so that as we begin to be released from what feels like a stuck season, we are prepared to be sent? When we find ourselves in these stuck seasons, perhaps we lay down our efforts and we lay down our trying and we trust in Jesus and we look to the Lord. What are you wanting to show me about your strength? When Paul writes in Corinthians, 3 times I asked the Lord to take this thorn from my side. And then God tells Paul, in your weakness, my strength is made perfect. And Paul's response to the Lord was, I boast all the more in my weakness so that your strength may be made perfect in me. Perhaps in these seasons of stuckness, God is wanting to show us that we don't have all the answers, and it is okay to pause, Selah, and look to the Lord. Hey, I'm feeling really weak, stuck. I'm really afraid, panicking. Help me, because in this weakness, I acknowledge your strength is made perfect in me. And here's something that I don't think anybody has ever told me about feeling stuck. Is sometimes being stuck is a mercy. Sometimes being stuck is a forced pause. It allows us this moment to look around because we physically feel like we cannot move, to look around and reconsider and reconvene and recalculate. And when there's nothing around us that is perceived helpful to get us out of this, it forces us to put our eyes up to the Lord. And so sometimes being stuck is a necessary part of our journey before we are sent. Sis, if you're feeling stuck right now, just pause. Take a breath, have a moment of Selah, and then look up to the Lord, because he will give you the tools to get out, but he can also show you what he has been wanting to teach you in this season of feeling stuck. And then, sis, when we are finally able to wiggle our way out of that quicksand, we have eyes to see. We will no longer be deceived by perceived solid ground, but we will walk with intention. We will walk with purpose. We will walk with clearer vision and with a little more confidence in where we're stepping. Let's keep this conversation going. Next week, I want to dive into a little bit of that first step on solid ground and what that was like for me. And that is all around the conversation of identity and how the Lord started to really refine my understanding of identity, what it means to be the Imago Dei, and how that refining of understanding of identity has created in me a stability that has literally changed the trajectory of my life. Thank you so much for being here, sis. If this podcast resonated with you, please share it with somebody that you believe it will bless as well. And meet us back here next week to chat a little bit about identity. Until next time, hasta luego.